smoke. Sun worship. It is one of the oldest practices of pagan idolatry on earth that can be traced to every continent and virtually every culture in the pre-Christian world. The oldest culture on earth, Babylon, worshipped the sun whose name was Shamash. He was usually depicted as a circle with 8 rays of the sun. Sir E.A. Wallace Budge, one of the greatest antiquities scholars of the 20th century, analyzed many of the Babylonian cylinder seals where Shamash is usually represented as rising between 2 mountains, for the Babylonians believed that each mountain had a door. When the sun rose in the east, it opened the eastern door in the morning. And when the sun set and disappeared in the west, it went through the western door in the evening. Babylon's younger sister culture, the Assyrians, worshipped the sun whose name was Asher, who was also their chief deity. He was usually depicted as a winged figure in a circle, sometimes with a bow and arrow in artwork when they were going to war. The Assyrians were heavily influenced by both the Babylonian and the Egyptian culture, where the Egyptian sun god, like the Assyrians, was also depicted as a circle with wings. Whether it was titled Ra or the Aten under the Pharaoh Akhenaten, it was the same pagan sun deity. In Volume 1 of History of Ancient Egypt, published in 1881, George Rawlinson, Camden Professor of Ancient History in the University of Oxford, documented how sun worship dominated every aspect of the ancient Egyptian culture. The Egyptians were profoundly religious. All knew that there was one God and understood that when worship was offered to Kem, or Neph, or Ptah, or Maut, or Thoth, or Ammon, the one God was worshipped under some one of his forms or in some one of his aspects. Ra was not a sun deity with a distinct and separate existence, but the supreme God acting in the sun, making his light to shine on the earth, warming, cheering, and blessing it. And so Ra might be worshipped with all the titles of honor. No matter what deity was worshipped in Egypt, it represented the sun god. And this pagan idolatry changed the glory of the uncorruptible God into an image made like to corruptible man, and to birds, and four-footed beasts, and creeping things, the Holy Scripture says. The scarab beetle was one of the most famous of the Egyptian deities. It can be found everywhere. When the beetle rolled dung, the Egyptians superstitiously believed that the beetle was the sky god who was rolling the sun across the heavens. It was viewed as the emissary of the sun and was mentioned in the Egyptian Book of the Dead. And nearly every monument, manuscript, or Egyptian artifact, the sun god is depicted with different deities and different pharaohs. In the Americas, the sun god was usually represented in human form, sometimes in a reserved seated position. In Mesoamerica, there were temples dedicated to the sun in places like Teotihuacan in Mexico, and the Aztecs continued from their predecessors offered human sacrifices to him. While all the civilizations mentioned no longer exist, in India, the sun god is still worshipped, and the name is Surya, and mantras or prayers are offered to it. The 13th century AD Konark Sun Temple that is still in use is adorned in its artwork with the same 8-rayed wheel or rays of the sun that was incorporated from the culture of ancient Babylon. The only pre-Christian culture on earth that didn't worship the sun were the children of Israel. And there was one thing that singled them out from all the other nations on earth to prevent them from sinking into pagan idolatry. God said, 6 days may work be done, but in the 7th is the Sabbath of rest. It is a sign between me and the children of Israel forever. For in 6 days the Lord made heaven and earth, and on the 7th day he rested and was refreshed. But when the children of Israel strayed from God, it was always the sun that replaced the worship of God. That ball of fire that God created on the fourth day of creation to rule over the day and was for signs and seasons became their God, and this idolatry was unequivocally condemned. God said, "Then said he unto me, Hast thou seen this, O son of man? Turn thee yet again, and thou shalt see greater abominations than these." And he brought me into the inner court of the Lord's house, and behold, at the door of the temple of the Lord, between the porch and the altar, were about 25 men, with their backs toward the temple of the Lord, and their faces toward the east, and they worshipped the sun toward the east. There was one culture that amalgamated both the Eastern or Oriental culture and the Greek or Western culture into one: the Roman Empire. Having one of the most vast empires, its faithful soldiers were its strength, and it was renowned for its colosseums all over its empire, where its gladiators fought gruesome and bloody battles in its arenas, its entertainment industry or Hollywood of the day. Its famous sun deities were adopted from the East, and it was called Sol, where we get the name solar system. These sun gods from Rome can still be found today. In this monument from ancient Rome, you can see a smiling sun within a wreath. This has now become the logo of the United Nations. The god Mithra was sometimes depicted with the rays of the sun coming out of his head. And this was the gift French Freemasons gave to the United States that is now called the Statue of Liberty. But when Rome was at its height, and when Caesar Augustus restored paganism to its zenith by rebuilding all the pagan temples, one was to be born that was to counteract the pagan idolatry of ancient Rome: Prince Emmanuel, the Lion of the tribe of Judah. When Jesus came to reverse the effects of the fall, he instituted two things that would clearly distinguish him from all the false sun gods that existed before him. And he said unto them, "The Sabbath was made for man, and not man for the Sabbath. Therefore the Son of Man is Lord also of the Sabbath." And he took bread and gave thanks and brake it and gave unto them, saying, "This is my body which is given for you. This do in remembrance of me." Unlike the Hebrew Passover that was to be clearly kept on the 14th day of the month, Abib or Nisan, Jesus, the Lord of the Sabbath, our Passover, can be kept on any day, week, or month. Jesus was crucified in a horrific death to pay the price of sin, and he died on one of the very insignias of the sun god, the cross. And it wasn't long before this symbol was incorporated into the church. When the ancients looked at the sun and saw its rays shining out from it, the cross later became a symbol for the sun. The Babylonians had the cross on their cylinder seals in obeisance for the sun god Shamash, and the Assyrian monarchs wore the cross or sun god around their necks in full recognition of their homage to the sun. And on Egyptian monuments, the cross can be found etched in stone, where it either looks like a hot cross bun or the ankh. Egyptian priests also wore the ankh around their necks like the Assyrian kings, and even the Mesoamerican culture, the Olmecs, had the two crosses on their apparel. If there is one system that sun worship has been preserved in its entirety, it's the papacy, whose headquarters is Vatican City. In the main square in Vatican City, facing St. Peter's Basilica, is one of the oldest symbols of the sun, and people walk over it without in the least being aware of it. From an aerial view, the Vatican Vatican Square has the 8-rayed sun wheel, the largest on Earth, that forms into the shape of a phallus. And it can be traced back to the Babylonian sun god, Shamash, who has his 8 rays. As you walk into St. Peter's Basilica in the Vatican and tour around, sun worship symbols are everywhere. But as you look into a corner, you see a statue of a woman holding the sun god in her arms, which shows the pagan mysteries have not died. You'll also see a pagan sun god with a halo or sun on its head, who the Vatican calls St. Peter. It's not Peter, it's the sun god, and the halo can be traced to the Eastern cultures where the Buddhist and Hindu religions adorned their deities with the sun behind its head. And you can see that Catholic art tried to paganize Jesus Christ and show images of him with the halo, where critics assert that Jesus is not the Son of God, but the Sun God. Even the image of Jesus was borrowed from the pagan world. Look at this image of the Greek god Zeus, who they call the father of the gods. And when you go into the Vatican and look at the images of who they say is Jesus with a halo on his head, it is Zeus, not Christ. But this is the image that dominates Christendom, Zeus. Even rappers have made Zeus their top bling iconic Jesus piece figure that they adorn around their necks. The wedding ring is also from sun worship and has been incorporated into the church. The man who introduced the paganization of Christianity is Roman Emperor Constantine, whose bogus conversion caused the greatest damage to the purity of apostolic Christianity. His contemporary Eusebius recorded a list of all the pagan customs he introduced into the church. And Cardinal John Henry Newman, the Anglican convert to Catholicism who was beatified in England in September 2010, documented all the paganisms that came in. We are told in various ways by Eusebius that Constantine, in order to recommend the new religion to the heathen, transferred into it the ornaments to which they had been accustomed in their own. The use of temples, and these are dedicated to particular saints and ornamented on occasions with branches of trees, incense, lamps and candles, votive offerings on recovery from illness, holy water, asylums, holy days and seasons, use of calendars, processions, blessings on the fields, sacerdotal vestments, the tonsure, the ring in marriage. Turning to the east, images at a later date, perhaps the ecclesiastical chant and the Kyrie Eleison, are all of pagan origin and sanctified by their adoption into the church. The Vatican has openly declared that every ritual in her system was adopted from paganism. And Christians who claim to be separate from her do not have much to challenge her on, for they also have adopted many of these pagan practices. And when critics attack Christianity as being nothing more than a scam and a continuation of the sun-worshipping Mithric religion of Rome, they find it impossible to defend themselves. So sun worship still survives in most of the mainstream Christian churches. Let us observe them step by step. In the first edition of the Catholic Encyclopedia, Volume 5, it clearly documents where the pagan custom of Easter originated from. Easter. The English term, according to the Venerable Bede, De Temporium Ration 1:5, relates to Eostre, a Teutonic goddess of the rising light of day and spring. William Tyler Olcott, in his well-researched book titled Sun Law of All Ages, also confirms this. He says, in short, sun worship, symbolically speaking, lies at the very heart of the great festivals which the Christian Church celebrates today. The Christian festival of Easter has its solar characteristics. The very word Easter, says Proctor, is in its real origin as closely related to sun movements as the word east. And And the notion that the sun dances on Easter morning as it rises is firmly believed today by superstitious people. In Saxony and Brandenburg, the peasants still climb the hilltops before dawn on Easter Day to witness the three joyful leaps of the sun, as our English forefathers used to do. Tyler tells us that the solar rite of the new fire adopted by the Roman Church was a paschal ceremony, may still be witnessed in Europe with its solemn curfew on Easter Eve and the ceremonial striking at the new holy fire. It is said that stores make their highest sales at Christmas time, and the season is a very profitable time for companies where people frantically buy gifts to please family and friends. But even though most Christians in the West will fanatically defend it, giving no scriptural support, who is it really in honor of? The Canadian-born Freemason, Manly Palmer Hall, who is considered as one of the most respected esoteric scholars in the 20th century, tells us its pagan roots. For reasons which they doubtless considered sufficient, those who chronicled the life and act of Jesus found it advisable to metamorphose him into a solar deity. Sun worship played an important part in nearly all the pagan mysteries. The pagans set aside the 25th of December as the birthday of the solar man. They rejoiced, feasted, gathered in processions, and made offerings in the temple. In fact, the merrymaking is rooted in paganism. The Bible never gives an exact date for Jesus' birth. So when the Christian Church adopted December 25th, it was superimposing a Christian festival on a previously held pagan one, says Richard Heinberg, author of Celebrate the Solstice. The Roman winter solstice, says Tyler, as celebrated on December 25th, in connection with the worship of the sun god Mithra, appears to have been instituted in this special form by Aurelian about AD 273. And to this festival, the day owes its opposite name of the birthday of the unconquered sun. With full symbolic appropriateness, though not with historical justification, the day was adopted in the Western Church, where it appears to have been generally introduced by the 4th century. The sun dominated nearly every feast in the pre-Christian occult world. On December 21st, the winter solstice, the ancients believed that the sun died, and on December 25th it had its rebirth. But the ancients also had sacred trees. It was like their own tree of life, which they revered and held sacred. In the 2009 film Avatar, pagan tree worship is connected with the spirits and ancestor worship, and it was one of the animist customs of many pagan tribes.
This is a place for prayers to be heard, and sometimes answered. Of our ancestors.
The Bible forbids any revering for pagan tree worship, for God wanted his people to be distinct from the world and not be manipulated by the movements of the sun in the heavens. Hear ye the word which the Lord speaketh unto you, O house of Israel. Thus saith the Lord, learn not the way of the heathen, and be not dismayed at the signs of heaven, for the heathen are dismayed at them. For the customs of the people are vain. For one cutteth a tree out of the forest, the work of the hands of the workman with the axe. They deck it with silver and with gold. They fasten it with nails and with hammers, that it move not. They are upright as the palm tree, but speak not. They must needs be born, because they cannot go. Be not afraid of them, for they cannot do evil, neither also is it in them to do good. For as much as there is none like unto thee, O Lord, thou art great, and thy name is great in might. Today, Christian pastors, so-called evangelists, scholars, and teachers are now telling their congregations that Jeremiah is not talking about the Christmas tree, though the language is so clear. And they are encouraging their flock to purchase the trees and to celebrate Christmas. But even the secular world knows that the Christmas tree is tied to paganism and spirit worship. Even Jesus says in Luke chapter 16 and verse 8, to paraphrase, the secular world are more wiser than the children of light. Mistletoe, caroling, even Christmas trees were tied to the solstice. Celtic cultures believed that mistletoe's golden berries hold the fire of the sun, and Christmas trees are a vestige of pagan tree worship. Having Christmas trees again hark back to the pagans. They decorated evergreen trees with decorations, food, and runes to keep the spirits close to their villages. The Christian authorities tried for years to stamp this out, so the pagans merely took their trees indoors, which is why we are still doing it to this day. Who is Santa Claus, and how does he tie into the winter solstice sun festival? He is usually portrayed as an oversized, big-bearded figure who gives children gifts, and in modern times he has been made popular through the marketing of Coca-Cola. Listen to the voice of the secular world. Saturn, the old man who lives at the North Pole and brings with him to the children of men a sprig of evergreen, the Christmas tree, is familiar to the little folks under the name of Santa Claus, for he brings each winter the gift of the new year. Even Saint Nick has solstice origins. Santa Claus comes down to us with shamanistic characteristics. He flies through the air and he carries a magic sack on his back. But Easter and Christmas are not the only memorials to the sun. There is one more that the majority of Christians around the world keep, that can be traced to the Roman religion of Mithraism. Manly Palmer Hall gives us a clear and detailed account of this last homage to the sun. Alexander Wilder, in his Philosophy and Ethics of the Zoroastrians, states that Mithras is the Zend title for the sun. There are many points of resemblance between Christianity and the cult of Mithras. The Encyclopedia Britannica makes the following statement concerning the Mithraic and Christian mysteries. The sanctification of Sunday and of the 25th of December, the immortality of the soul, these are some of the resemblances which, whether real or only apparent, enabled Mithraism to prolong its resistance to Christianity. The Vatican has made a number of statements which has pushed for the preservation of this Mithraic day of rest, a day that Jesus never gave no disciple instruction to keep in memorial of his resurrection. In 1998, the late Pope John Paul II published a document to preserve this day. It was called Dies Domini, which translated is the Day of the Lord, where he bigs up both Sunday and the seventh-day Sabbath of creation. The fundamental importance of Sunday has been recognized through 2,000 years of history and was emphatically restored by the Second Vatican Council. The Sabbath has therefore been interpreted evocatively as a determining element in the kind of sacred architecture of time. It recalls that the universe and history belongs to God. The Irish-American Catholic prelate Cardinal James Gibbons, Bishop of Baltimore, made a very powerful statement in his 1876 Apologetics, The Faith of Our Fathers. He was no ordinary Catholic bishop. He was a powerful, towering presence in United States politics. In this picture, he stands in the center, where he prays for President McKinley on the left and Admiral Dewey on the right in 1899. He was also very close with was President Theodore Teddy Roosevelt, as seen in his photo in 1918. In this picture, he stands on the furthest right, and fifth on the left is the bearded steel magnate, Scottish-born Andrew Carnegie, with President Howard Taft. Gibbons comments on this Mithraic memorial when he says, "Is not every Christian obliged to sanctify Sunday and to abstain on that day from servile work? Is not the observance of this law among the most prominent of our sacred duties? But you may read the Bible from Genesis to Revelation, and you will not find a single line authorizing the sanctification of Sunday. The scriptures enforce the religious observance of Saturday, a day which we never sanctify." But the Vatican has put out a number of statements where they have rubbed it in the face of the vast majority of the Christian world that when they keep Sunday, it is not in obedience to Jesus Christ, but in obedience to the Catholic Church. They have even offered money to any Christian if they can prove the Mithraic Sunday worship from the Bible. Until this very day, not one Christian has stood up to the challenge, the papacy. In a book called The Faith of Millions by a highly respected Catholic scholar, Reverend John A. O'Brien, originally published in 1938, it strikes a blow and a challenge to the majority of the Christian world. It reads, "The word Sabbath means rest and is Saturday, the seventh day of the week. Why then do Christians observe Sunday instead of the day of the Bible? Since Saturday, not Sunday, is specified in the Bible, isn't it curious that non-Catholics who profess to take their religion directly from the Bible and not from the church observe Sunday instead of Saturday? They have continued the custom even though it rests upon the authority of the Catholic Church and not upon an explicit text in the Bible. The observance remains as a reminder of the Mother Church from which the non-Catholic sects broke away, like a boy running away from home but still carrying in his pocket a picture of his mother or a lock of her hair." So who is the God of Christmas? It sure ain't Jesus. Jesus never told anyone to keep the 25th of December holy. And though the word Easter is mentioned once, he didn't tell anyone to keep Easter. Neither did he tell anyone to keep Sunday in memorial of the resurrection. The Holy Scriptures teaches that the new life that is lived should be kept in memorial of the resurrection. But while Christians will debate, argue, and fight over all these issues mentioned, before Jesus Christ returns to take his faithful home into eternity, those who are faithful to him will be distinguished from all the others who profess his name. Then said Jesus to those Jews which believed on him, "If ye continue in my word, then are ye my disciples indeed."
Okay, there you have it. I decided to start off this episode with something, again, that just confirms what I've been saying all along and what many of you have heard before, and that is that this holiday, that millions of people, maybe we can even say into the billions when you look outside of the United States, when you're looking at Canada and, Great Britain, Europe, all through, even down into Australia, New Zealand, parts of Africa, India. I mean, you're looking into the billions, but what they are really worshiping it's a pagan holiday. And again, when you trace it all back to Nimrod, to Baal-zebub, what you finally get back to is the enemy, the devil, Satan, Lucifer, and he's our enemy. I mean, let's not play around with this, okay? As I've said on many occasions, the scriptures, they're a sword, okay? The apostle Shaul, who the Gentiles call Paul, he gives a list of the armor that believers in the Messiah, that followers in the Messiah, that we are to wear, and he includes in that the only weapon, okay, that he really includes is the word of the Most High, which he calls a sword. But let's go to Ephesians chapter 6, and let's look at that verse. That's 17. And take the helmet of salvation and the sword of the Spirit, which is the word of Elohim. That's the only weapon that we are to use in this war. In fact, I heard a minister, a Hebrew minister, who was saying that if we get to the point where we're using our fists or kicking someone literally with our feet, or we're using a gun or a knife or a baseball bat or rocks or doing anything like that, that we've pretty much we've lost the battle. We've lost that battle, and probably even, maybe even depending on who you are and what's going on, you might have lost the war. This is a spiritual war, and it's manifested on this physical plane. But we know that the sides of the war, we have, on our side, we are the soldiers, we are the servants of the Almighty Creator, Yahuwah, Elohim. We are fighting for Him on a spiritual level in that regards. And when I say fighting, what we're doing is spreading the good news about who? His Son, Yahushua HaMashiach, Yahushua the Messiah, who the world mistakenly calls Jesus Christ. That's what we're doing. That's what we are contributing to this war. We're also contributing praises. We're also contributing doing good works, helping out our neighbor, helping out ourselves, taking care of ourselves. And that's something that we need to really look at. That's what we're doing. The other side, their leader, their commander-in-chief is the enemy, the devil, the father of lies, the great dragon. Okay, the devil, Lucifer, Satan, call him however you want. He's got a couple of different names, but that's who is the commander-in-chief on that side. He's with Darth Vader and Darth Sidious and Darth Maul and all those satanic cray-crays. That's who's over there on that side. And many of us on this side, we are being targeted by them. We are being gang-stalked by them. Other words for it that describe this particular phenomenon that we are enduring and walking out is adult bullying, touchless torture, organized harassment, community harassment. It goes across all levels of society. Victims can be from either gender, any race or culture. This can be happening anywhere in the world. It's not just confined to any particular region of the world or continent. It has nothing to do with political affiliation. It has nothing to do with religious denomination. It has nothing to do with socioeconomic status. It has nothing to do with level of education. And the same can be said for the perpetrators. If you remember in the episode titled Former Perp Tells All, that whistleblower who worked his way up into the higher levels of that security industry in Seattle, he found out that the company, it was as he described it, it was a national security company that was involved in gang stalking and targeting. And he said that many of those individuals on the lower levels, the rank and file, that as he described it, I might even put that on later just to confirm that they dress like we do, they walk and talk like we do, they're watching the same movies that we're watching, everything. That's what makes it so insidious, is if it was one particular group of people who was doing this, if it was one particular people who was suffering through this, well then yeah, we could really draw out some really clear, defined, visible, obvious battle lines, okay, and handle the thing. But no, it's insidious. And oftentimes, because of some of the tactics that are used, individuals who we had once considered friends, a strong support system, even among family, one of the tactics that they use, the gaslighting, which leads into the other tactic, isolation, that leaves us on the outside, where family members can be told horrible lies about us, just vicious, just degrading, disgusting untruths that will turn family against us, that will make family give us the cold shoulder. And in some instances, specifically, I have in mind, I'm thinking of Myron May, where family members actually joined in. If you've ever had a chance to hear the confession that he left, I think you can find it on many different channels on YouTube, where he spoke of an incident where he had been driving for days and was just exhausted, and he called up a family member. I think it was a close cousin, and I think it was the cousin's spouse or live-in boyfriend or girlfriend or something, and asked if he could crash on the couch. They said, sure, come on over. He went over, and they proceeded to put him through just what I guess the tactic would be, it wasn't street theater, but it was definitely a noise campaign. It was definitely sleep deprivation all through the night, all through the early morning, just walking in and out the front door, slamming the door, yelling, having fake arguments, and just the devastation of that, okay? But that's what we can go through, and we know that another tactic that they use, that many of us deal with, is the spiritual attack, the satanic witchcraft element that they use, and which is why it is so important for us, specifically during this, what they're calling the holiday season, but we know that it's the holiday season. They can amp it up, because this is, as I've been sharing with all the information that I had already learned, that I'm now passing on to you. We know that one of the things that is really insidious about this holiday season is that it's hidden, it's masked. We're given this idea, for centuries, that we are honoring, we're commemorating, we're celebrating the birth of the Savior of the world. And also, they've incorporated, they've put into it a lot of paganism and a lot of just what can seem funny to someone who's not from this Western culture when you start looking at Santa Claus. But the reason I started off with this particular audio clip was that it really, again, it put the emphasis on where this originally comes from. And that but basically through the years, through just masking, through hiding, through changing names and changing different titles and giving excuses and deceiving the masses, they have been basically worshiping the same deities. Okay, they've just changed the names. They've just done a little bit of this and a little bit of that, but it all boils down to paganism, and which is, we know that at the bedrock of paganism is Satanism, is witchcraft, and that is what they're using against us. And this is a time period when we are empowered individuals, we are more vulnerable, because when we participate in that, basically we are co-signing, we are co-participants in our own destruction, in our own attacks. Because when if you've been listening to, like, say, the last episode and the one before that, where I shared information about the mistletoe, about the holly and holly berries, about the wreath, the candles, even the lights, decorating the house, putting all the real fancy designs and making it look all cool, what that is on a spiritual level, that what we do when we do that, we give our enemies the legal right, we give those witches, we give those warlocks the legal right to attack us physically at night. And if we don't want to suffer through that, if we don't want to endure that, then we need to stop using these trappings, these Christmas trappings. We need to not celebrate Christmas. And I know that today is the 25th, and I had hemmed and hawed over the idea of doing a live stream, but because I've never done one, and this is all basically doing all these episodes back, so many episodes all in 1 week like this has all been impromptu, and I don't know that it would work with a live stream. I don't even know how many people are really even who would even be on the internet, just happened to be on YouTube at the time when I did one, and I don't even know what it takes. I'm pretty sure you need like a monitor and just some stuff that I probably don't have. So this is going to be just another episode, but I hope that you do get to hear this, that I'm able to upload this in time so that you can listen to it during the afternoon and evening, because I know that it's just one day. That's the one thing that I'm going to say again, and I said in the last video, that's something that I learned in dealing with recovery, just through Al-Anon and ACA, that these holidays, it's really just one day. That's all it is. It can seem, because there's so much propaganda and there's such a push, there's such a manipulation and a coercion, where we're showing all these television shows and the movies and the commercials even, and the advertisements of family and friends and getting together and joy to the world. And yet we know that when we go up in there, that chances are, depending on where we're at and who's there's going to be a perpetrator. Okay, there's someone who might actually slip something in the eggnog that they give us, in the cup of rum that they give us. Okay, and we could find ourselves having a very different experience, and we don't want to deal with that. We can find ourselves waking up feeling like we're being sexually attacked. We can wake up at night literally from just lurid, strange, crazy dreams. They can use that depending on how it's done and what we agree to, because that's the other thing, is that when we participate in these activities and go to these, church services and the gift exchanges and the Christmas decorating ceremonies and all this, when we do that, we're basically coming into agreement. And that's something that I've learned, is that some of these spells, these hexes, the victim has to come into agreement, because all of this, we know that the Most High is the creator of the spirit world. He's the creator of this physical world, and he operates through laws. He is not the author of confusion. These entities that are out here being summoned and being sent and directed against us and against whoever, it's just not random. It's just not willy-nilly where they just get to attack and assault whoever they want to. There's order in this. In order for this to happen, there's order in this. And let's see, I think I tried to, did I find that verse last time? Let me see if I can find it again this time. If we go into the book of Proverbs, yep, I think I got it this time. If we look in Proverbs 26, looking at verse 2, as the bird by wandering, as the swallow by flying, so the curse causeless shall not come. So a curse without a cause can't come. If you have never come into agreement with these people, if you have no connection with them, if you do not have any of these trappings, around any of the symbolism, going to any of the activities that they're doing, then, and you've never done anything to them, it's harder for this to work. You literally have to come into agreement with them. And I think maybe I had said this in one of these episodes, and if not, let me just say it now, but though I think that I did. But when you literally, the way these satanic gang-stalking cray-crays work, the rules that they have to abide by. And remember, these are followers of who? The father of lies. And we know that that a synonym for a lie is deceiving, to deceive, to trick. Okay? And so they have to get you to come into agreement. They, depending on who they are, maybe you got a bold one up in there who literally might come up to you and say, "Hey, I want to put a curse on you so that you have nightmares, and that you're tangling with and fighting with and trying to fend off an incubus or a succubus for, the next couple of weeks. You down with that? Can I do that? Was that okay? Not going to happen. That's not what's going to happen. Okay, but they do. If I've learned this right, if I understand what I've been learning in just these videos that I've been watching and books that I've been reading, listening to different people, you have to agree with it. But one of the ways that they get you to agree is through something slippery and sneaky and tricky. Okay, so again, showing up with a gift and exchanging a gift with someone is a form of agreement. You know what your gift is. You know what you gave them. You just went out and bought a pair of socks at Walmart. Put it, maybe got a little card, wrapped it up, looks really nice. Put a little Merry Christmas and Happy New Year and blah blah blah, and that's it. But you don't know what they gave you. It could be the most benign looking, innocent, harmless little doohickey in the world, and you could just open it up and be like, well, thanks, this is just what I've always wanted. And take it home and put it on your nightstand and think nothing of it. Lay down, go to sleep, and wake up, and it is as if somebody unleashed hell on you. And you may or might not even know. You may not even be able to remember and trace it back to that specific gift. And even when you do, just the devastation, when all you did was accept an invitation to do a gift exchange and to go to a party, the one time you felt that you were going to be accepted and that things were going to be okay, and this is what they did to you. This is how they treated you. And then that spirals you down. What's wrong with me? Why do they have to treat me like this? What did I ever do to them? I don't even know that guy, or I don't even know that lady. Why would she do that to me? It can rock your world. It really can. And I remember, man, again, like I said, this whole podcast, this fiery trial, I share just some of the experiences that I've had, that I've endured and just learned through, and I'm not sharing them to get anyone depressed or to get anyone scared or upset. The truth of the matter is, everybody listening to this within the sound of my voice, if you are an empowered individual, who is surviving this, who is walking this out, you know that we all have stories. We could do a live stream. We could all sit up here and talk for probably 2 and 3 hours and just take turns telling different experiences that we had. Okay, so with that in mind, I had a experience. This is where I had, again, I told you that where I really became first aware of this, that I was being stalked and hounded by people, and my way of describing it was these people are messing with me, because at this time I had no idea that it was called targeting, that it was called gang stalking. I didn't know all that. I just said they're messing with me, and I clued into the fact, okay, this is some witchcraft, crazy, satanic, crazy stuff. But I made it. I was on the bus. I made it back to California, and I was in a shelter, and I was in the East Bay. I was in an area called Richmond. And a lot of these, when you mention some of these cities in the East Bay, they might seem like they're far away, but in all honesty, they're really connected. Sometimes it's just you're driving down one main thoroughfare, and you turn a corner and you're in another town. When you're sometimes, for example, it's really hard to tell when you're in Albany and when you're in El Cerrito. Okay, to anybody listening in Northern California in the East Bay, you know exactly what I'm talking about. Okay, but so I had gotten a job at a store. I'm just going to say a store in one of the towns, and there was this individual who was one of the managers. Now, to this day, I don't know how I came into agreement. I don't know when it happened. I have no freaking clue. But I know that one night I went back to the shelter, laid down, went to sleep, had this dream, and in the dream, I am kissing this individual. This individual is kissing me, and I mean literally literally, it was scary, and it was real, and I just, what the heck? I mean, because this is someone who no, I don't know. No, not happening. The very next day, when I showed up for work, this individual says to me, "Hey, how you doing? So how did you sleep last night? Did you sleep okay?" And I just, of course I played it off. Yeah, it was cool. But I was looking at this individual, looking sideways. Okay. And that's one of the things that a lot of them will do is they want to know if it worked. So they're going to so how'd you sleep? How you doing? You doing okay? How's everything going? As if they're just like your best friend and they're just casually just wanting to know how you're doing just because they care about you. But if once you start to tune into this, you get it. You ain't asking because you care about me. You just want to know if your sick, twisted, satanic, abomination, bull crap worked. Okay, that's... Yeah, okay, I'm getting ready to start to use some colorful adjectives, so I'm going to let that go. But, and that wasn't even Christmas time, okay? So imagine how it's amped up during this time period, which, as I've been sharing with you in these audio clips, is that this is the time period when these are considered very high holidays. These are some of their highest days, their most powerful. These holidays are falling on days that are really, they just have a lot of I don't know, power. I don't know that much about that stuff, so I don't know how it works. But Halloween is one of them, Thanksgiving, but then Christmas too. And that was something that at first it was very surprising to me to know that. But if you're like me, after a while you got tired of that. You got tired of being a victim. And yet this is, as I was just reading, this is a spiritual war. So for me to have gotten up in that individual's face and accused, made an accusation and started the finger pointing and, getting close and what's up? Why don't you do something now? You sick, twisted. What good would it have done? It would have played into their hands. It would have been just gasoline on the fire. It would have given them all of the justification to do whatever they were wanting to do, which, was not going to happen. I would have lost the job. I mean, you see the ramifications, the consequences, and yet this is how the Most High, one of the ways that He uses the wicked to train us up. These types of experiences are what means more to us, and we learn more from them. At least that's speaking for myself and just a few other people who I have had the opportunity to talk with, and not necessarily about stalking, but just about these types of experiences. They mean more to us. We learn more from them than the hundreds and thousands of times that our moms, that our dads, that our aunties, and Big Mama so-and-so said, don't be getting in the fights with people. You can't afford to lose this job. You want to be homeless? You want to not be able to pay for your books this semester? Keep on fooling around and lose that job, because I ain't going to help you out. I mean, right? I mean, how many of us have had those types of conversations and that type of scolding and that type of, finger wagging in the face, and it didn't do anything. But now this is something that is like hitting. This is spirit. This is our spirit is raw. Our spirit is quivering. Our spirit is trembling. And yet we've got to somehow maintain, because the only way we can, we need to chill. We need to make the right moves. We need to make the right steps. So we can't afford to fly off the handle. But you see how the Most High uses that to train us up? Because now that we know that, okay, and we've learned that, and we've been through that fire, we've been through those crucibles, now we can talk to people about some of this information, and we're a lot calmer. We know how to, quote unquote, choose our battles, right? Am I making sense here? Am I speaking to anybody out there who knows what I'm talking about? Because it is my hope that that these truths, that they are firmly, that you have a grip on them, that they are in your heart, that they're in your minds, and that they're right there in your mouth, ready to fall off your lips to anybody who might, because today is the 25th, who might ask you, oh, what are you doing? You're not doing anything? You know what? We're having to get together. You can come over if you like. Or it might be a situation where you are in a dorm, where you have a roommate, you have a housemate, and they might literally be having a party right there in the house. Hey, what are you supposed to do? It's their house too, but to be able to stand firm, to stand with your truth and literally say, oh, no thanks. Literally, I've had several times today where people have said, oh, Merry Christmas. And, I just, I kept it really simple and just said, well, this isn't my holiday. I don't celebrate it, but it's a good day, Keep it mellow, keep it cool. And if the opportunity arises where someone says, really? You don't celebrate Christmas? All right, then, what's up with that? I didn't know that. Opportunity right there to maybe share some truth, to maybe drop some knowledge. Okay, drop a little jewel to someone who didn't even know. Because in the end, that's what the Most High wants us to do. He wants us to proclaim the truth. So that, again, as I shared, that many people can take serious the cry of that powerful Malak, which said, come out of her, my people. Okay? They have to come out. See, that's where this gets, how can I say this? It gets twofold, because while we're trying to endure and protect ourselves and keep our guards up in this war without hands, at the same time, we want to do the work of the Most High because we have a love and a respect and a gratitude for Him because He has preserved us and covered us and shielded us and hidden us in the shadow of His wings and kept us out of the reach of individuals who, if given the opportunity, will kill us, will literally destroy us, mangle us, leave us mutilated, hobbled, crippled. Okay, but He's kept us away from that as much as possible. And so there is a gratitude and a love for Him. And we do want to share the good news of His Son, the Messiah, Master Yahushua, the Messiah. We do want to. But I'm gonna change things a bit here. There's something else that I want to share with you. And it's going to kind of like change gears, but I think that it's important. I think it's something that we need to know. So I want you to just sit back and listen to this. Okay, hang on just a second.
I have a question for everyone. That question is, what defines you as a person? What makes you, you? A lot of us tend to define ourselves through our physical image, our jobs, our bank balance, and a lot of the time through what others have to say about us. I used to define myself through three things. In high school, I was quite the people pleaser. I wanted everyone to like me because I thought that the more likable I was, the further that I would get in life because being popular was so cool. And I tried so hard to become this person that everyone would like. A majority of the time I was living my life through other people's opinions of me. From the age of 16, I started to obsess over my weight. So I wanted to look like the cover girl in Cosmo magazine, the Photoshop one. My diet consisted of just salads, and I used to literally count every single calorie that my body was consuming. I even went to the extreme of harming my body for many years to try and get rid of the food that I'd eaten because I needed the thigh gap and I needed the thin waist. I was in a relationship for the last 2 years of school, and I truly believed that my happiness came from someone else giving it to me. I had put so much pressure on this other person to be everything to me, to make me feel worthy and make me feel like I was enough. And then when the relationship ended, I was completely broken. I didn't know how I was going to stand on my own, and I felt like I lost the little sense of identity that I had, and I was terrified of being alone. I know today that the only reason I felt so empty and broken inside was because I didn't know myself at all. So it was the hardest 5 months, hardest and most emotional 5 months of my life. And I didn't know how to deal with how I was feeling, all this pain, all this emotion. And one day I called the person that I used to be with and I asked, "Are you happy?" And he said yes. And it was from that moment that I decided that I was going to be happy. And that I was going to find a happiness that worked for me, that I wasn't going to deal with this pain and these waves of emotion anymore. So I started journaling my breakup. I wrote down my feelings and my thoughts. And recently, looking back on my journal, I realized how I would end my writing off with positive affirmations towards myself. Things like, "You can do this, Kate." And I'm a huge fan of quotes, so I was putting quotes all around my room in places that I could see easily. And I started reading motivational books and positivity and powerful thoughts and how to change your mind. I was trying everything to get through how I was feeling, something that seemed so impossible. But just like those positive affirmations that I was writing towards myself, I knew that I had the strength to move on. I just didn't know how strong I actually was. So I had to pick myself up in some way. And I did. I slowly started to, and for the first time in my life, I realized just how capable I actually was of standing on my own and being my own person. I just had to learn through loss that all I needed to have was me. So for the whole of high school, I let those three things define me. Other people's opinions of me, my weight, relationship. And by allowing these things to define me, I let them control and consume my life. And I was looking for happiness in those three places, but I could never ever seem to quite find it. I believe that happiness is something that you create for yourself, by yourself, on your own terms. The world that we live in is something that we create for ourselves. And I'm not talking about society's world. I'm talking about the individual world that each and every one of us experience, because as we shape our world and our lives, we shape ourselves too. So I've learned through picking myself up through a breakup and letting go of the things that I thought defined me, just how important it was for me to take the time out to figure myself out, get inside my own mind and understand myself. As there's only one part of the universe we can all be certain about improving, and that's ourselves. I'm currently reading a book called The 15 Invaluable Laws by John Maxwell. And in this book, he says something that really made me think. He says, as children, our bodies grow automatically. A year goes by, we get taller, we become stronger, become capable of doing more things, facing new challenges. But a lot of people carry with them a subconscious belief into adulthood that spiritual, mental, and emotional growth occurs automatically too. Now just think about that for a second, because I was one of those people that believed that those things occur automatically, but it's not. Personal growth has to be intentional. We have to take ownership of our growth process, because we do not simply improve by accident. Think about a close friend of yours. The longer you spend time with them, the more you learn about them, and the closer you become. And it's exactly the same with yourself. The more you focus your energy on getting to know yourself, spending time by yourself, the more you will learn about yourself, and the closer you will become to yourself. And let me tell you that is such a beautiful feeling when you realize how close you are becoming to yourself. I've decided to make myself a priority in my life. And self-discovery is the best gift that I'm busy giving myself, and it's the one gift I wish I could get each and every one of you who don't have it already. It has allowed me to grow on my own terms without someone else telling me how to. And by doing this, I'm becoming the person I want to be rather than the person I was told to be. And a lot of people think that putting yourself first is selfish. But putting yourself first simply means it simply means taking a stand, looking at yourself and saying that I'm going to do everything in my power to see myself succeed and reach my dreams. I'm going to make the best choices in my life, including the people that I surround myself with, people that add nothing but value to me. And once you decide to love who you are, you can then take that love that you have for yourself and spread it to other people, because without that self-love, you limit your ability to pour into the lives of other people and add value to them. Living the best version of yourself inspires other people to live the best version of themselves too. I was speaking to one of my friends the other day, and she asked me two questions. She said, "Caitlin, how did you decide that you wanted to make a change in your life, within yourself and your mindset? And secondly, how did you make it stick?" So I had to think quite hard about what she asked me. But I said to her, I knew that I wanted to make a change in my life the moment that I decided that I was going to be the only person that was going to determine my happiness. that I was going to be the only person that was going to define me, not those three things. And how I made it stick? I pushed. I pushed through all the negative thoughts. I pushed through all the negative self-talk, and it wasn't easy. It's never easy. But I always had a craving to know myself deeper, and if you want anything that badly, anything is possible. I know that the relationship that I have with myself is the most important relationship. The relationship that you have with yourself is the most important relationship. And how you see yourself and how you treat yourself is how you see and how you treat other people. How can you expect to give love if you can't give love to yourself first? Ask yourself today if the relationships that you have in your life are adding value to you. Are they helping you grow into the person you want to become? And then ask yourself, but am I adding value to me? And these two questions are very important, because the people that you surround yourself with in life have a very big impact and influence on you and your growth. But you have the biggest impact and influence on you. So if the answer to these questions are no, then decide today to maybe make a change. And if you decide to make that change, don't just place a small amount of value on yourself, because rest assured, the world will not raise your price. Know your worth. Start focusing yourself, developing yourself, improving yourself. Good things will come, and know that the space between where you are now currently and where you want to be is growth. And the thing called life that happens in between is hard, but it's really, really beautiful. Thank you.
Okay, I know that was kind of maybe a bit out of left field for some of you, but I listened to that. I decided to put that in because, again, if you remember the last episode, I spoke about recovery work and just learning to say no with firm boundaries, and in order to be able to say yes, and how that plays a part in what it is that we're trying to make it through, not just for the holiday season, but for the remainder of our lives, for the remainder of this walk. You know, again, maybe there are some of us who are dealing with this, who things might take a turn for the good, and your perpetrators and targeters and the handlers and all of this stuff might just go away. And hopefully the lessons that you've learned, that they will be life lessons, and that you can take from them and continue to cultivate them and become a better person because of that. Become just aware of like your surroundings, and you know, the quote unquote the little guy who might still be dealing with this, and so forth and so on. And then there are those who, hey, this might end up being the story of our lives, where we are dealing with this in some capacity, maybe to a greater degree, maybe to a lesser degree, but for the rest of our lives. But I think that it's important that we, as empowered individuals, now notice the difference there. The word is empowered, okay? To refer to myself as a target, and to go around, literally, just, I'm a target, and maybe, putting a target on, and that is really, I feel that it's a form of negative reinforcement, and I don't think that my perpetrators, these stalkers, these targeteers, they wouldn't mind that. I think a low self-esteem works for them, but empowered, that means that we have some power. Something is giving us power. And when we know that it's the Most High through the fruits of the Holy Spirit, we know that we have been forgiven of our sins. We've been washed. We've been, cleaned in the blood of the Lamb. And He has placed us in the shadow of His wings, and we are being covered and protected. we keep his commandments, we walk this out, and he gives us power, okay? The Messiah said, you shall know the truth, and the truth shall make you free. So we have the truth now, and that is what sets us apart from these other individuals who are dealing with this. And that's not to say that they don't have their own form of power, that's not to say that they're not walking this out and, making it to, I'm not trying to downplay, anyone's experience, but I know that, and I'll say it again. I know I've said it before. This is a physical manifestation of a spiritual war, and we know that the Most High is a spirit, that the Almighty Creator is a spirit, that He created the spirit realm, the physical realm. Everything that happens in this realm it started in the spiritual realm. So this targeting, this gang-stalking, the color coding, the identity theft, the computer hacking, the work mobbing, all of it started there. Okay? And a scripture, again, see? Me and the scriptures. Always going to be the scriptures, That's a sword. It's the only sword that I have. And it's a good sword. Psalms 37, verse 23. The steps of the good man are ordered by Yahuwah, and he delighteth in his way. The steps of a good man are ordered. Now we know that means man and woman. Okay, man is the name of the species. You have man, you have womb man. Okay, so let's not even try to go there and get technical and start doing some stuff. Man, womb man. Okay. The good man are ordered. The steps of the good man, the steps of the good woman, the steps of the righteous are ordered. So that means that what we're dealing with, it isn't just by coincidence. It isn't a happenstance. We were given something from the Most High that would separate us from others who are dealing with this, who are clued in, okay, because there's many victims of gang stalking who are clued in that this is gang stalking or that this is targeting, and they're able to pick up on it, but they find another way to deal with it that works for them. But for some reason, we have been given an emotional motherboard, okay, that is clued into the spiritual side of this. And we know that, again, that this is as physical as it feels, as physical as it is. Okay, when they're doing the convoys and you've got, trust me, I've been on the bus and 3 and 4 and 5, 6, 7 red cars in a row are driving up and going past, to the point that unsuspecting passengers are like, wow, do you see all those red cars? It's got to take something to really get some sheeple to notice it, okay? But literally convoys and, just the color coding and just, coming in and moving things around in the house, that is very physical. But in the end, it is a manifestation of something that is happening in the spirit realm. And some reason, sometime in our development in that spiritual realm, the Most High put us in the setting, maneuvered, worked everything else so that we would come here during this time period through our specific family lines, specific racial, cultural lines, ethnic lines. And part of it was that we would be stalked, that we would be targeted, that we would have individuals mean mugging us, killing our house pets, giving us hang-up phone calls, threatening us, literally scaring us, literally plotting and planning to get us in car accidents where we lose a limb, where we lose an eye, where we lose our life. And that sense of survival, that innate primitive sense of survival kicked in, and we didn't go grab the pistol. We didn't grab the knife, okay? We didn't, get in the car and, put the seatbelt on, and when they came by and did the brightening, just, cranked that wheel and drove it right into them. No, we didn't go physical. We got down on our knees. We said, Heavenly Father, there's something going on here. What is this? We went to Him. And think about that. Would you have turned to the Most High? Would you have been so willing to keep the commandments? Would you have been so willing to really literally think about and look at Christmas as from a spiritual perspective, as being a facade to worship Satan? Would you have really even thought along these lines if you weren't being color-coded and stalked and dealing with home invasion and dealing with an incubus and a succubus messing with you at night, and or somebody sitting on your chest and trying to steal your air? Would you have even turned to the Most High? The Most High wanted you to be his servant. He wanted you to be that candle, that light in that dark environment, that dark community, that spiritually dark place where you're living, where you're working. Okay? And he realized, now how am I going to do this? Okay, because we're in the last hours of this earth age as we know it. So no booming voices from the sky, no burning bushes. Okay? I know, I'll use these cray-crays, these ones who think that they are the owners and makers of their own souls. I'll use them, these children of disobedience, to scare this, remember, scared straight, to scare them straight. And for me, I can say it worked. Okay? And look, I was raised in a quote-unquote, I'm going to say quasi-Christian home, Christian environment, Christian community. I mean, literally, living in an environment where, I was with a lot of Hebrews, so-and-so's our auntie and so-and-so's our cousin, even though they really aren't our cousin, they really aren't our auntie. But, that community can be so close where you do call them aunt this, or you do call them uncle this. And that is, you do grow up with someone and they become your cousin or whatever. That's why it is with Hebrews. We're that way. But literally, in a church where literally living right up the street from the church, cleaning the church every weekend, cutting the lawn during the summertime. I mean, literally, that's what I mean when I say raised in a church environment. Being there Sunday, being there Wednesday, for Bible study. I mean, the whole thing. Easter egg hunts, the early morning sunrise service. See the paganism right there? For Easter. I mean, all of that. Okay, the Christmas plays and, the little drummer boy and just being in the Sunshine Band and, all that stuff. Okay? Raised in that. Went from that church to another church because, like I said, the reason we went to this other church, I look back in memory and I'm aware now that some of what I'm dealing with, is a result. It's intergenerational, that my mother was dealing with this because she ended up leaving that church and going to another church. Going to that church, that was a Pentecostal church. I mean, literally, just dealing with that, but having that always there somewhere in my existence, in my youth, was this book, was a Christian church. That was my background, and then literally going on doing missionary work. I mean, that was it. So I was walking that path, but then, hey man, I left it. Okay, I ended up living like a tear. Until, this stuff started happening, and I'm telling you, when it really kicked in and I really became aware of it, I didn't grab a bottle. I didn't grab a bottle of pills and take a bunch of pills and try to end it. I didn't go leaping off a roof, leaping off a bridge. I didn't, pick up, a baseball bat and go for one of them and go, come on, let's do it now, Toma. I didn't do any of that. Down on the knees, praying to the Most High. It was like, it just kicked in instinct. The steps of the righteous are ordered. And so now we're having to learn how to live, and hence the audio clip. And I'm not talking about living as in how to write a resume, how to develop study habits so that you can, take your your midterm exams, and really do good. I'm not talking about that type of living. I'm talking about living so that we are emotionally healthy, emotionally sound, in spite of what we're dealing with. Okay, because coming from the perspective that this may not ever end, and I know that might be a downer, we don't want to say things like that. We want to have a positive, thoughts and everything, but looking realistically at this may not ever end. So even if it doesn't end, what does that mean? Does that mean that I stop the fight? Does that mean that I sit down on the side of the road? Does that mean that I just allow these stalkers to just walk all over me? Do I get on with my life? Do I develop some survival skills to help me? How do I treat myself? We know how the world sees me. We know how the world is treating me. Okay, because even before this, I was dealing with this. Hey, I was coming from a broken home. Like I said, I ended up in Al-Anon. I ended up in ACA, Adult Children of Alcoholics, having to deal with this. You feel me? And also being what? Hebrew Israelite woman in this culture that hates Hebrew Israelites, okay, to the world, mistakenly calls us African Americans, Black Americans, okay? No, but I know who we are, and I'm not going to pretend and play with that. I'm not going to stop saying that. What, because it's Christmas, I'm not going to say that? Oh, because I'm talking to a bunch of targeted individuals, empowered individuals, so I'm not going to say that? Oh, no, I don't think so. No, this is, because I think every once in a while that sometimes this might be one of the reasons why some of this stuff is going on. Because this amped up again. Okay, it was mellowing out, but it amped up again when I started talking about that in these videos. But you know what? It is what it is. When I'm quiet and not saying anything and not doing any videos and had this channel and was just watching videos and leaving comments, and I was dealing with it. Now I'm doing videos, doing podcasts, making comments. I'm dealing with it. You know, so hey. But my point is, life goes on. Okay, we still have to live. We still have expectations, we still have desires, we still have interest. We still have to live with ourselves. Even though we're isolated, even though we've been shunned and shut out, we still have us. I still have me. You still have you. You have to live with yourself. How are you going to live with yourself? How do you view yourself? You know, I mean, like I said, in one of the other videos, I hope that you do, this information that I'm sharing, I hope that you do take some of it, take a pen and a piece of paper and write some of these things down. And I know that the young woman was speaking about she was looking at this point from dealing with a breakup, a high school breakup, and dealing with, I believe I think she's bulimic. She was dealing with, bulimia, hurting herself, trying to keep her weight up, but getting her view of herself from other people from outside. And we can't afford to do that. So it's time for us to step up to the plate, and let's use this whole thing with Christmas. Let's let that be, let's start there. Okay, do we literally accept an invitation or accept a gift from somebody we don't trust? Accept when some guy comes up and, with the little mistletoe and he's just looking all cute and cheesing, you know what I mean? And, puts it over our head. Do we let him kiss us? Do we kiss him? Okay, because what? Because we don't want him to not like us. We want friends, and it is the Christmas season and we don't want to be the Scrooge. I mean, check this out. I was at a bus stop. This was a few years back, and it wasn't Christmas, it was Valentine's Day, which is another insidious, vile, nasty holiday. I might do an episode on Valentine's Day, okay, because they've coded that one over so that it's all about love, okay. But at any rate, I'm at a bus stop, and this guy pulls up. It's a white guy, good-looking white guy. Blonde hair. He pulled up and, leaned over, rolled down the window and had a bouquet of like yellow roses and asked me if I wanted them. And I said, no thanks. That's not my holiday. No thanks. It was like, okay, are you sure? I said, yeah, I'm sure. I said, okay, you have a good day. And he drove off. Now, see, that's, for some people, that would be like what you dream about. Some women would dream about that. Oh, having this good-looking blonde guy just pop up out of nowhere and with a bouquet of roses. Oh my gosh. Oh, I don't think so. But by the time this happened, this was just a few years back. So like I said, by the time that happened, oh no, thick skin. Already looking sideways at the majority of the world. I still hadn't learned what this was, in terms of that it was, called gang-stalking and targeting. But oh no, I ain't got nothing for nobody. I don't trust nobody. And if that's too negative, if that just sounds too negative for you, I don't know what to tell you. But the thing is like being able to say no, being able to set boundaries. We have to we can allow this, we can let this be an opportunity for personal growth. And one thing that she said that personal growth has to be intentional. Now think about that. Many of us have been so busy trying to survive and outwit these targeteers that sometimes I think we forget that we have a choice and we have a say, that we can literally choose to let this be an opportunity for us to get some personal growth. Think about that. By choice. Just like you have been choosing to listen to these episodes and learn about the truth behind Christmas, that it's a form of satanic worship, that's really what it is, and that you have been purposefully getting this information to help you to not participate in these rituals so that you can shut the doors, giving your stalkers the legal right to come in and satanically, spiritually attack you. Well, and you did that on purpose. Why? That's there's some growth there. Well, why don't we just keep going with that and keep growing and keep using this stalking, this targeting as a way for us to grow? Wow. Think about that. That's great. That stops us from being the victim. Okay, it doesn't mean that we turn the tables and start stalking them. Okay, no. Okay, remember I still got that fellow's thread that I where he was talking about that, how he was starting to stalk those who were stalking him. Oh no, I'm not talking about that. That's just tit for tat. That just keeps you in that same cycle. Oh no, we want to move on. Let's use these individuals. Let's use these cray-crays who are gang-stalking and targeting us as a way to get some personal growth. Just an idea, just something to think about, which is why I decided to put this on. Something else that she said. She said that we are learning more about ourselves, that we're forced to, okay, and we're forced to do that if we want to survive this, if we really want to survive this righteously, okay, because there's many people who are surviving being gang-stalked. There are many. They are in dire conditions, but they're surviving. Life is not good for them, but they're surviving. Okay, but we want to survive in righteousness. We want to, in the thick of all this, be someone that the Most High can brag about, that the Most High can use us, can put us in the path of someone who needs to know the true name of the Messiah. To put us in the path of someone who needs to know that black folk, they're actually Hebrew-Israelites, descendants of the tribe of Judah, scattered to the four corners of the earth. Yeah, and they're being awakened. They're being awakened right now, just like the Most High prophesied that He would do. And when they go, really? Are you serious? You can go, yeah, and you can turn to the book of Joel, and you can literally show them. You can go, yeah, look in the book of Joel, chapter 1, chapter 2, where he talks about what was done to them, that they are the sons and daughters of Jerusalem, okay, and that they were sold to the Grecians, but he promised that he would wake them up. Yeah, chapter 3, verse 7. Behold, I will raise them out of the place whither ye have sold them. I will raise them. And that word raise, when you talk about raise, that means to stir, to rouse. You know, when you raise someone, you rouse them up. You wake them up out of a sleepless slumber. Maybe somebody needs to know that. And you're the person that the Most High has said, "This, where's he at? Where's she at?" Okay, and we're there, and we're ready, and we're able to do it, and we don't have to worry about, oh, I don't want them to say no. I don't want them to get mad at me. What if they yell at me for saying it? What if they look at me weird? No, I can't do it. I can't say nothing to them. Oh no, I just can't. I can't do it. I'm just going to keep going. Maybe there's somebody else who can do it. Then we become a disappointment to the Most High, and we don't want that. We don't want that at all. So I just wanted to say that, because don't let this end again, because this is just one day. It's just Christmas Day. That's all it is. It's one day. And by 9 o'clock, 10 o'clock, okay, I'm on West Coast time, Pacific Standard Time. So by 10 o'clock tonight, some of the parties are going to be winding down. Tomorrow it's the 26th, and then it's going to be the 27th, and it's going to be the 28th. And, again, these people who were, wearing the elf hats and wearing the little reindeer caps, with the little horns sticking out and being all friendly and, oh, Merry Christmas. And they're going to turn out to be the same, just negative people, hateful people, So, but life still goes on. And the boundaries that you have been able to set because you've gotten this information and this, the truth about, what they're doing, telling us that we're commemorating and celebrating the birth of the Messiah, when we know that the Messiah was not born in December. We know that December 25th, that it is the date for many pagan deities, and that the emphasis is on the 25th, that particular day has special meaning for pagans. And we know that the early Catholic Church, that they began to trick those Christians. They begin to weave in all of these pagan and satanic and idolatrous practices and symbolisms, and they always somehow tied it around to the scriptures or to the prophets or to the apostles. And now we're not okay with that, especially because we're realizing that the double whammy is that when we do this, we're literally opening the doors, giving our stalkers the legal right to come in and attack us. That's like a double whammy, so we've learned some boundaries and we're able to stand up to that. Well, let's keep standing up. Let's keep using this as an opportunity for personal growth. So that's how we can find some of the pearls, in this muck, that we can turn it around, and do the unexpected, because these stalkers are not expecting that. At least that's what I'm assuming. The actual handlers, the ones that are drawing up the plans and using, the information that they've compiled on us and setting up their little PowerPoint presentations. They are they're planning our demise. They're planning to punish us and destroy us and wear us down. And the idea that we might find some strength through the Most High, I don't think that's a factor. I don't know that they can factor that in. I don't know that they can factor in the Most High. I don't really think that they can, because he's beyond time. He's beyond this physical realm. They don't. Here, let's let me just confirm that. Let's go to the book of Isaiah. He makes this very clear. Let's see, Isaiah 57. Let's see if I can find this real quick. I always do this. I always just come up with these scriptures. They just pop into my head, and then I have to follow through on it and I find it. But I will. Here we go. Isaiah 55. Let's start at verse 8. For my thoughts are not your thoughts, neither are your ways my ways, saith Yahuwah. For as the heavens are higher than the earth, so are my ways higher than your ways, and my thoughts than your thoughts. Okay, so I don't think that they factor that in, that literally we might be able to endure this and come out of this with some jewels, with some weapons, with some tools. I don't think that they planned on that. And so, wouldn't that be great? Isn't that great? Because that leaves them perplexed. That leaves them in awe. And of course, that leads me to yet another scripture. See, I said, okay, I'm telling you, don't listen to this if you ain't planning on, if you're not planning on having the, having some scriptures, having to like look through your Bible and come up with some verses that I'm going to read to you, because this is our sword, and we need this, and we can't play around with this, and that's just the truth of it. Okay, here we go. 1 Corinthians chapter 1, verse 27. But Elohim hath chosen the foolish things of the world to confound the wise. What? Stop. What? Confound. That would be like confuse. To confuse them. Okay? And Elohim hath chosen the weak things of the world to confound the things which are mighty. See, the weak things, that would be us. The ones who don't have any political clout. The ones who don't have any type of privilege where we can go and draw attention to what's going on and people will listen to us and take us serious and like start to investigate this and really start to check this out. No, we don't, we're weak, okay? Okay, the weak things of the world to confound the things which are mighty, and base things of the world, and things which are despised. Again, that would be us. Because these individuals, if you've done any type of research on these satanic gang-stalking cray-crays, they hold their victims with the utmost contempt. With the utmost contempt. Remember the audio clipping of that witch harlot on the Art Bell show? How she literally, that fellow said to her at the end when she was talking with the Christian fellow, and he said, I'm a Christian or something, and I'm gonna pray for you. And she basically told him, if things were different, I'd chop your head off. I mean, that's literal. She didn't say it like that. She, because she's not, Hebrew, but she said, in that Gentile way that they have, I would chop your head off. I mean, literally, they do not have anything. They have nothing for us but contempt. Okay, we are despised. Okay. And base things of the world, and things which are despised hath Elohim chosen, yea, and things which are not, to bring to naught things that are, that no flesh should glory in his presence. Okay, that no flesh should glory in his presence. So when they see us surviving this, walking this out, day after day, in righteousness, making wise choices, making mature, constructive choices on how to handle when they come up in color code, when they come up and clear their throat and mean mug and get our attention, when they do street theater, when they're turning up the noise, next door and down the street, and giving us hang up phone calls. Okay, that must confound them, because they've got a plan. This has been, I'm going to put this in another episode, but one individual traced this back to Nazi Germany, that this was something that they had developed, that they were using against citizens. Okay, to get them to come in line or to punish them. That's where this goes back. So this goes back many decades. But it's, hey man, it's for them, it's tried and true. So all of a sudden here comes a group of people who are able to use they're able to use the Bible. They're able to use the Most High. They're able to use, and they're talking about, they're not saying Jesus, they're saying Yahushua, the Messiah. What? Oh wow, that confounds them, and that will make a few of them think about the Most High. Maybe that will make them rethink what they're doing, and that might be what the Most High wants. Okay? Yeah. So, but in order for us to do that, in order for us to be servants that he can use in that mysterious way that he uses us, we have to have something in here. We have to have a motherboard that's wired, okay? That is set up, that where we have the strength, where we have the knowledge of who we are, okay? That we have the personal growth, that we can do this. Okay, we can take this and turn this around and use it to our advantage. So yeah. Okay. Yeah, I think I said everything that I wanted to say. Christmas is ending, but this is not over by a long shot. Do not let your guard down, because there's another holiday right around the corner. It's in a couple of days from now, and what is that? New Year's. Okay, think about that. New Year's. They're telling us, you see, Get this one. Can you get this? They're telling us that the new year starts in the dead of winter. Newness. The newness. Where things are new, when it's green, when it's fresh, when it's just starting off. They're telling us that this time period when things are dead, when there's no real, the majority of a good hefty percentage of the animals are buried in their hovels and in their holes and in their caves, and they're hibernating it out because there's not a lot of live plants, green fresh grass to eat. There's no berries to nibble on, there's no leaves to nibble on because everything is dead. They're telling us that this is the new year. Okay? And look at the number of people who are believing it, who are buying into it, who are going to have their guards lowered. They're going to be celebrating, and some of them, unfortunately, will suffer vehicular accidents, fights, drunken brawls, an increase in the use of alcohol and drugs, domestic violence in this coldest part of the season, this coldest part of the year. Okay, in keeping with what? Another satanic, pagan ritual. So please don't let your guard down, but please join me for the next episode. Okay, and with that I say shalom.
Yes, righteousness exalted the nation. Come on, my brother and sister, stand up strong. Hey, you can't give up, no matter how the runnings get rough, no matter how the dirty get tough. Can't give up, say that man make me try to live up, no matter how the runnings get rough. You can't give up, say sisters make me try to live up, in the system Babylon is rough. You can't give up, you know see the way the runnings get tough, no matter how the dirty get tough. Wait, well, things and time are getting kinda steep, and I don't have nowhere to sleep. Children in the streets scuffling for something to eat, so no matter to guide or keep. Well, Elijah complained to the government, I said the little youth them need a resident. He never seem to have no conscience and walk away without an argument. We can't give up, no matter how the runnings get tough. Black man at time we live up. We can't give up, no matter how the dirty get tough. Remember that I love you so much. We can't give up, say sister make we try to live up, no matter how the dirty get tough. We can't give up, say sister make we try to live up. The Rasta man I say such answers, Lord God. Been took we from the jungle, yeah we feel come so far in them jungle, and still them want we feel humble, even though they know that them are crumble. Them never want we feel riot, they my plan them schemes to keep it quiet. We have to stand up in a Babylon solid like rock. Well I nah give up, we nah give up. Listen now, we nah give up, no matter how the runnings get rough. Black man at time to live up. We nah give up, no matter how the dirty get tough. Black woman at time to live up. Can't give up, no matter how the running get tough. Black man at time to live up. Can't give up, no matter how the runnings get tough. That's the man I say such and such, Lord baby. Look it. Say if you have a cheddar skill, working on the farm or you're toiling in the mill, as long as you're willing to manifest your will, then